Hello, hello, video request, whoa. So this one's from Gypsy Hustle. It came a few days ago, but I didn't get around to actually watching the videos about it, so it took me a couple days to do it, but there goes. Request, do you think America would be much different today had 9/11 not occurred? What do you think has changed between life pre and post 9/11? Also, what do you think about the argument of the NSA spying on Americans is unconstitutional? Isn't there a good point to be made that at the time of the drafting of the Constitution there didn't pose the threat of nuclear weapons in the hands of religious extremists? Comparing the threats of today versus those of 1776, we see obvious differences. If the U.S. can stop attacks, then do you believe it's true we can sacrifice privacy for security? Thanks. Wow, Gypsy Hustle gives lots of good requests. Yeah, keep bringing them, Gypsy Hustle. You bring the good ones. Okay, so do you think America would be much different today had 9/11 not occurred? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The world's big time different. 9/11 big time changed the world, man. It kind of sped stuff up. It brought us closer to, World War III. It caused the war in Iraq. Back when we went into, I know the majority of us wanted to do Afghanistan, and I think even when we first went into Iraq, it was 69%. I saw in a Time magazine poll. Like a month after it happened, and could have been Afghanistan, but people are down with that. And even as far as the Edward Snowden thing, it's about split down the middle. I just saw the Pierce Morgan thing. Yeah, he says split right down the middle. Half the people think what Edward Snowden did was wrong, and half the people think what Edward Snowden did was right. And this is even after. We found out that the government was doing it against people's knowledge, which is not good. So, I mean, if they had done it above board since the beginning, it would be higher than 50%, and we'd be doing it anyway. You know what I mean? So you don't have to do it secretively. People would allow themselves to get to be spied on like this, man. If you convince them that they could deter nuclear annihilation. I mean, it's true. If you can have all of these, if you can get your hands on nuclear weapons, I think hundreds of dirty nuclear weapons have been missing from Russia. The Soviet Union collapsed in what was it, 1991 or something like that, and ever since then they didn't need all those nuclear weapons. They had thousands and thousands and thousands of them, and Russia's a poor country. There's lots of poor scientists, poor people who have access to that kind of stuff who would sell it. And, North Korea has a nuclear weapon. They did their nuclear test. They shot a satellite up into space, and everybody knows how crazy they are, but they got a scientist guy in there to build them a nuclear weapon. And so it's totally believable that that terrorists could get together and communicate and organize and get themselves one of these dirty nukes, that could take out a whole city. And, they're only as big as a suitcase, somehow smuggle them into America, under a car through Mexico or Canada or something, and kaboom, kaplowy, DC, or even do it something even more coordinated, have maybe they could even have 100 of them. And they could kaplowy all the big cities in America and take America out, take America back to the Stone Age. And so it's definitely, there's something to be said for the government being able to just spy on anybody and everybody, and having all of that access to people's emails and stuff, so that they could know exactly what the terrorists are doing and thwart the attack. The government said that they had stopped a lot of attacks like that, but that's not really what we're talking. That's not the whole story, though. That's not really what the whole Edward Snowden thing is about. So the whole picture. But so 9/11 caused all of that, caused people, and especially the government, to kind of be more, take this whole anti-terrorism stuff more seriously. And so that's how 9/11 changed the world, man. Big time. And it also showed us the attitudes of everybody. It kind of brought the subconscious of everybody up to the surface. Right after 9/11, we found out, everybody loves America. Because everybody's like, sorry about 9/11. And then we attack a couple of countries, and then everybody's like, no, that's not what the idea is, and a lot of Americans are against that too. So we kind of find out that we kind of overreacted. Personally, what I think what happened with 9/11 is the government has been using high technology and spying on terrorists and all this kind of stuff before 9/11. They've been doing it for a while, and I think they knew that the terrorist attack was coming. And there's even evidence of that. I don't know the details of it, but yeah, there's actual proof that they knew that there was an attack. Everybody expected attack on not just the government, dude. Everybody who knew what was going on expected attack on the World Trade Centers. I remember when I was in '97, I was in a bar in Budapest hanging out with these Canadian soldiers who were on leave from the war in Bosnia. There was a war going on in like Bosnia and Serbia at the time, and he was like, "Dude, you don't understand. Everybody hates you," because they were fighting Muslims. Everybody hates you, I'm telling you, they will take down the World Trade Center. Those World Trade Centers are gonna go down. And he reminded me of the bomb that went off in '93 in the World Trade Center that was almost successful and almost brought it down. So what I think would happen is the government just was spying on these terrorists, and they knew that they were going to do that attack, and they knew what day it was, and they knew all about it. And so they just went in ahead of time, and they set up those explosives on those buildings to make it so that the buildings would actually collapse at the at the rate of actual free fall, which never happens when you see buildings collapse. Like when you see buildings collapse, like when they collapse big hotels in Las Vegas and stuff, those buildings collapse was like not even as well done as as how well the World Trade Centers collapsed. And those things have explosives all over their vital areas. So a plane flying into a World Trade Center and exploding isn't going to collapse one of those buildings. It's just going to cause a fire. Those buildings, and people filmed those things, filmed explosions happening right before it was coming down. It was all timed. You could see the windows getting blown out before it came down, and then there's, and then the other building next door fell down. So maybe they expected another plane to hit the other building, building 7, and then they accidentally detonated or something, but it collapsed. Like how could a building next to another building collapsing make the other building next to it collapse? It doesn't make any sense. So I think 9/11 was an inside job in that regard, and when Ahmadinejad says that the real Bin Laden is in America, that's a valid point, you're saying Bin Laden, the dude who did 9/11, well, it was a kind of a, who it wasn't the terrorists who placed all those bombs on the building itself. So I think they wanted people to go, they wanted us to attack Iraq in order to try to get their hands on the oil, get control of the oil. Somehow they thought that would work, Now they're contracting out to other countries, France and China and stuff, instead of America. They're not thankful, they're pissed off. But and also they wanted to keep that military industrial complex going, keep those guys making money, Halliburton making money. Who's that guy? I know I'm taking the 9/11 thing a little bit, I'm getting really detailed into it, but I'll move on to the next one. But who is it? The vice president, Cheney, owned 4 million shares in Halliburton, which was the big subcontractor that went in there and made a ton of money off of the war in Iraq, where they would charge $150 for a load of laundry, and they wouldn't even clean. They'd destroy your clothes instead of clean them, and then they made it so that the soldiers had to clean their clothes there when they just wanted to do it with their hands, because it made the Halliburton money and all this kind of crazy stuff. And And he used to be like the president of Halliburton too. But anyways, it's called Academy now. But yeah, dude, that's what I think 9/11 was all about. And so that they could also, have more of that military presence around the world to try to go after the Middle Easterners. I think there's this big fundamentalist Christian like Armageddon. The devil's in the desert, defeating them. Type of a carrying out the prophecy in the Bible type of a scenario. Where they were like, yeah, let's just kill all those Muslims and all the terrorists and show everybody how crazy they are. But it's kind of backfiring now. People don't like America because of that. But anyways, that's what I think 9/11. And so that kind of brought all that forward. It gave the U.S. government more power to do this whole wiretapping stuff. Okay, so what do you think has changed between life pre and post 9/11? Life? Well, yeah, it caused us to get more. It caused a whole lot of people to have friends and family killed by those wars. What was it, 5,000 Americans killed in Iraq, a whole bunch killed in Afghanistan, hundreds of thousands killed in Iraq. It's changed American life in that regard. It costs a whole lot of money, so it screwed up our economy big time. And how did it change life in Iraq? I think it did bring Iraq closer to democracy. I think overall it had, I'm not going to say a positive effect on Iraq because Iraq could have changed anyways, and they could have changed more peacefully, and I think peaceful changes and revolutions is better than ones where all those people die. But the Iraq today is a lot freer than it was under Saddam. You get to have people get away with a lot more than they did then. You get to have the motorbike gangs riding around, and there's more westernization. There's a lot of people there who are thankful for America still, and a lot of people aren't. So it brought stuff forward. I think and Iraq has still got problems and stuff, but I think it brought them up. Overall, I think Iraq is better off than they were then. But it wasn't worth it. Definitely wasn't worth all that money and all that death. Okay, so also, and then somebody might be like, what? What do you mean Iraq is better off now? All those people died. Well, people die. That's kind of how life is over there. Change the world through blood. If they were going to have a revolution, people would have died anyways. That many people. So, and sure, they get another Saddam Hussein in there, but it's not as bad as before. It gets a little bit better. Okay. So, anyways, also, what do you think about the argument that the NSA spying on Americans is unconstitutional? Well, let's read the U.S. Constitution, the Fourth Constitution. This is the one on my website. It says, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." So the government says that it doesn't violate the Constitution, and and then a lot of other people in America think that it does violate the Constitution. So I think the argument that it does not violate the Constitution is that they are doing, they're not actually going into, they're not actually going in and like a person is not, an actual human being is not listening to your phone calls or reading your emails. And obviously, there's 300 million Americans. How could anybody? How could it? It's impossible. It couldn't happen. But they're still gathering it. Okay. So that's the argument. So I guess the argument that it's not doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment is that nobody's reading it. You know, like they're like, what? No, in 1776 they were like actually reading it, you know, and that was violation. But like nobody's reading it, only our computers are. And then the people who think that it does violate the Constitution are like, well, you know, they have it now, you know. And so my opinion is that it does violate the Fourth Amendment because they're collecting it, you know, whether it's a computer collecting your emails and your phone calls, you know, or a human being like walking in there and grabbing it with their hands, you know, they still have it, you know. I mean, it's like in 1776 they could go into somebody would go into your house and take all of your crap just because you're an American. Obviously, is unconstitutional. That's the point. They took it. It doesn't matter if they actually read it or not. You know, they have it now and they can read it if they want, and that's what the government's doing. They have it and they can read it. And what Edward Snowden was saying is that they're collecting it on everybody, okay, every single person, and they put it in this big database that of every single person that they can then go back in time and you know, cherry pick all the stuff that you did and use that against you. And it's called a dragnet, where they just go through everybody, and he says that you know, and obviously that's a clear violation of Fourth Constitution, like I said before. But he says that, you know, if you do that, it could even get worse, because then you could it kind of sets this precedent. It sets this. Edward Snowden called it a policy, you know, that they have where. And then if there's like another terrorist attack, you know, or they do another 9/11 where they allow another terrorist attack to go, because, you know, and this has happened a lot of times before when the government allows this kind of stuff to happen. You know, they blew up the Maine to start this U.S.-Spanish war. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was all prearranged so that they could go into Vietnam. I mean, that's common knowledge. They've admitted it to it. So, you know, I bet you in 50 years they'll admit to the 9/11 thing too. It's just part of the policy. And so what if there's like another 9/11 type of a thing, and then they're like, oh no, now it's even more serious, and now we've got to actually you know, go after all of the Muslims, and now they're all bad. You know, and then what? Arrest all of them? I mean, and we have a history of doing that too. When World War II happened, they went and they started all these concentration camps for Japanese Americans. You know, that's ridiculous. Just because they happen to be Japanese. That's what America is. It's a big melting pot of America, of the world. You know, that was a big embarrassment for America. And then, of course, the whole hippie thing. You got 500,000 hippies in jail in prison. You know, for like. You know, the prison sentence for drugs, for like magic mushrooms, you know, which grows out of the ground, is like worse than rape. You know, you're in jail, you're fucked. You're in jail for life. And we've got 500,000 people in there. We spend $40 billion a year in the war on drugs. It costs just an ungodly amount of money. And so, could it happen again? You know, like if shit gets, like say an American city actually does get nuked. You know how like out of control it could get? Like then you could start doing dragnets and like, you know, locking up all the Mexicans, locking up all the Muslims, and oh my God, you know, concentration camps all over the place. They'll put those FEMA camps to use that they've built. You can see them. They filmed them. You go to the FEMA camp, and I saw that it was Alex Jones and Jesse Ventura went there, and they were filming them. They were actually filmed the coffins stacked up like 12 feet high, you know, 20 coffins high, and plastic ones, and rows and rows and rows and rows of them, and these giant barbed wire fences and stuff, you know, they're all over the place. There's like hundreds of them. So like, it's like, you know, it's like they're already planning on it because they already built up the freaking infrastructure. So, so anyways, but that's the real issue here. Well, let's actually pass through all the questions, and then I'll talk about that. Isn't there a good point to be made that at the time of the drafting of the Constitution, there didn't pose a threat of nuclear weapons in the hands of religious extremists? Yeah. Comparing the threats of today versus those of 76, we see obvious differences. Yeah. And that's what the government should have tried to explain to the populace. The problem is that they didn't. They were doing all that kind of stuff against against the knowledge of the U.S. population. And the sad thing is that they didn't have to. Like, why were they doing that? Because now that this whole Snowden thing comes out, half of America, and actually most of the people, I guess a little bit over half of the people in Pierce Morgan's audience there raising their hands, said that Snowden was a bad guy. He shouldn't have leaked that information, and so that the government does have the right to spy on us without us even knowing. So if they think that, I mean, imagine how many of Americans would be supporting that the government has a right to spy on us like that, like the way that they say they're with our knowledge. Like it's like, why do they have to be secretive? And that's where the problem comes in, because that shows that they'll, then like that they'll do other stuff that they don't care what America thinks. It's not a democratic process, and that's what this country is supposed to be, a democratic country. So let's just finish really quick. Yeah, obvious difference. Okay, if the NASA can, if the NSA can stop attacks, then do you believe it's true we can sacrifice privacy for security? Thanks. Oh yeah. I think it's great to sacrifice privacy for security. The problem is that they should, and you know what? The thing is, you're not sacrificing your privacy for security. Nobody's going to read your emails. Nobody's going to, even if the government has it like locked up in a computer, nobody's going to read it and nobody's going to see it. It doesn't matter. So your privacy is still, in a real way secure, but not, people have a lot more access to it. See, I'm a lot different from your average person in this particular subject because, I'm the guy who, like, I upload videos and I talk about, like, daily vlogs, talk about what I'm doing. I'm really open about my life, and I'm not totally open because I have family members who tell me I can't say certain things, like money type of stuff, and like where my apartment is and that kind of stuff. But and like film, I can't film them or talk to them or talk about them or anything like that. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm open. I'm an open book because I think that the more open we all are, the more like anonymous we can all be. I mean, when all those college streakers, run naked through college, they basically have their clothes on because they're all naked. You know what I mean? Like you're all like when you have mob rule and the mob attacks the Versailles Palace, like they can all run in and desecrate the Versailles because they're all together. They're all anonymous that way. And so. If we were all open, then it wouldn't really, the government could just go in and go after the terrorists. I don't think people in the government are, malicious. I think they just, I just think generally. But the problem is, this is the problem. What Edward Snowden did was good. Edward Snowden is a good guy because we were doing that against Americans' knowledge. And they even denied it. Before Edward Snowden came out, this is a ridiculous thing about the whole situation. Before Edward Snowden became a whistleblower, the government was actually denying doing it. They have because I watch the Young Turks, and the Young Turks are really good about actually collecting clips. If I had the time, I'd love to do that. Start a YouTube channel and just show all the clips of but there's all other YouTube channels. If I had the time, what I should do is just collect like playlists and stuff and label it and stuff. But yeah, they showed clips of congressmen asking the NSA guy if they do that, because they were suspecting, and them straight out denying it, and so then you can't have a conversation about it. Now Edward Snowden had all of these really high level access, and he saw that what they could do, and what he could do, and what people, and he saw the trend. He's like, from his point of view, he saw the trend changing. He saw the intelligence gathering, getting more and more sophisticated and more and more in depth, and he says, what Edward Snowden says is that you could, the government can, if they do all this kind of stuff without anybody knowing about it, and then you have and all these people are appointed, and they all make the decisions for you, like they're doing it secretively. And of course, they say it's unconstitutional because their courts say it's unconstitutional, and they don't even tell you why. They just say, "Oh, what? Don't worry about it. Our courts say it's constitutional." And then there's like a really so it becomes really secretive, and so there's a small number of people who have access to this kind of stuff. Then they can have the power, and so if they decide that they don't like somebody, like say in the future, like 5 or 10 years or whatever, regular people can run for president, okay? So that, of course, that's going to scare the shit out of all of these establishment people. And so they can't fight back, with money, with all their super PAC money and all that kind of stuff. So now what can they do? Well, they can, if some like really good, like me, or some like really, really good, regular person does their homework and runs for president because they really want to make a difference. Well, then they can go in on that information with all the information that they have gathered on them and cherry pick. And then they can say, oh, we have this information about them, we have that information about them, and they can be really murky about where they got it because they're really secretive anyway. And then they can paint a picture however they want about anybody, and they can smear whoever they want. And they can like a sniper, they can just say whatever they want about anybody. If you're gonna if you even went through my YouTube videos, and you had like a workforce of 100,000 people or whatever, to go through or even if you're one guy and you spend a lot of time going through all of my videos, you could make me out to be a psycho. You could clip this little bit of thing I say, because I make blanket statements a lot, but they're in a context. This, and then you can make a video, Kyle Pounds is crazy, watch. And then people be like, oh my God, crazy, oh my God, you know what I mean? So they can do that. And so when it's all secret and it's not above board and explained to people, you can, it's not fair. You're back to not having a level playing field. And see, the whole fact that they were denying it. See, here's the ridiculous part, though. This is the totally ridiculous part, is that they were denying that they were ever doing it, right? And now Edward Snowden comes out and they have to admit it. And so now they're like, well, we welcome the debate. Let's debate about it. Well, why didn't you welcome the debate before? And at the same time, they're like, yeah, we welcome the debate, but that guy's a traitor. We need to throw him in jail forever. It's like, well, if you welcome the debate, why didn't you let everybody know that you were doing it in the first place? Why can't you don't welcome the debate, And if you do welcome the debate, then pardon Snowden and say, okay, thanks Snowden for allowing us to begin the debate, because without you we couldn't have the debate in the first place. And so it's ridiculous, You don't welcome a debate, and then they go in and they just so saying that he's like a traitor. Or I guess the other guy in the video that I saw, he said he was a defector. Defector? Well, what do you mean he's a defector? He can't move back to America. You told him if you get him, and then the next sentence he's like, yeah, we need to lock him up forever. Well, if he comes back to America and he's locked up forever, he has to defect somewhere, dumbass. and so I'm glad he didn't call him a traitor, because if anybody calls Edward Snowden a traitor, it's not true, because a traitor is somebody who turns against your country. He's not turning against his country. He wanted to protect Americans by saying that. He's so he's a hero. He goes for the transparency. And obviously he's not. The funny thing is that all these people in power, politicians and the people who you see knocking Edward Snowden, these super rich people, correspondents on Fox News and stuff. They do everything for money. They're all rich and they'll do anything. They'll lie, cheat, steal, bribe, all that kind of stuff. Well, Edward Snowden gave up a really nice life. He was making a ton of money in Hawaii. And now he has no life. And now he's probably going to get assassinated in a couple of years, or have to live in some other country. He fucked himself. So he obviously did it because he thinks it's the right thing to do, not because he wanted to get rich off it. So, pot calling the kettle black. Is that the saying? But yeah. So they should have been doing that above board, the whole time. And and if they had been letting people know that they were doing that, then they could have talked people into and then explained that the dangers of nuclear weapons and all that kind of stuff. They could have talked people into having all of their stuff like collected, all their private emails and stuff collected. But I would understand, but I mean, if like most of the American public, see, politicians are supposed to make decisions that the American public wants. So if most of the American public actually didn't want that, then we should stop doing it. We should stop spying on people, because a lot of people, it makes them uncomfortable knowing that all of their emails and their phone calls are recorded and stored someplace, especially, in a world like this where they're doing it secretively, because we have some kind of, oligarchical old boys club who control. Then they can go in and just read it, like maybe they can have their fun little dinner parties and get together, and like Edward Snowden could have done that. Edward Snowden had the power, even for the president, to go in and just for fun, just read your emails and listen to your phone calls and stuff. And I know they say, oh, we're not going to do it. We can't do it without a warrant. Well, is that you're probably lying. I mean, you're lying yet again, because you were lying when you said the program existed in the first place, and now you have to admit that the program exists. So you admit that the program exists, but no, you don't. You don't do warrants. So, yeah. I mean, that's just the argument for why you wouldn't want to have this program in the first place. Number one, it also costs a whole bunch of money. All of the these internet service providers and telephone service providers charge an exorbitant amount of money to share this stuff with the government, and it jacks up prices for their members. For your phone bill, it's just a waste. It's another example of just wasting a ton of money. There are other ways to deter nuclear weapons. We could have built a really big fence around Mexico a long time ago instead of gone to Iraq and Afghanistan. We can, I'm sure we have, technology to do like X-ray examinations of all of the shipping containers and stuff. If people, to do an operation like a nuclear strike, a terrorist nuclear strike, one of the suitcase bombs or something like that, it takes a lot of people, it's not a small operation, and it kind of takes like a little mini army from a country to do that. And in order to have that much support, that many people and that much coordination, there has to be a lot of hatred towards America, But if there's not enough hatred, there's the people, those Islamic extremists, they're not going to be powerful enough. They're not going to be constantly getting new soldiers in their ranks to join the army. So all we have to do is make ourselves more likable to them, and that's really easy to do. With the same amount of money that we did attacking those countries, we should just give them computers, I mean, if we make computers, we can make computers cheaper also for American citizens and everybody, and just give these people computers and give them internet and not sanction Iran. I don't think we should sanction Iran. And just give them the respect that they deserve, and then they'll see that America is a better country. They'll just see that our business plan is better, that freedom of speech is better, that being able to go to whatever website you want is better, and then they won't hate us, and they won't have that animosity, and there goes our nuclear. That's our nuclear deterrent. Then they won't do it. There's another aspect that I'll include in that. I believe that we can't detonate nuclear weapons anyways. We did a few nuclear tests back in the 40s. We dropped a couple of nuclear bombs on Nagasaki, but ever since then we haven't. And I think we were doing nuclear tests underground up until '92. But I don't think that we're going to have a nuclear war or a nuclear fallout, because that would destroy the planet. I think we have a whole bunch of aliens flying around the world, and there's already stories of aliens like fusing nuclear warhead together. This big spaceship flew over this ship, and then they found out later their nuclear warhead was fused together. There's been a lot of stories from inside people, like from the Disclosure Project, saying that we have actually accidentally launched nuclear, weapons, and the aliens has blown them out of the sky. There's a YouTube video of a flying saucer flying around this missile and zapping it with a laser beam, and it looked real to me. It looked pretty amazing. And so I think the aliens will protect us from getting blown up by nuclear weapons, because they want to help us and help us succeed, but also because they want to let us, the prime directive, they want to let us make all of our decisions for ourselves, but they're not going to let us like shoot ourselves in the face, but also because if we have all these big nuclear weapons go off, it's a nuclear weapon. It tears apart the subatomic structure of everything in the spirit world. So it affects the spirit world. It affects, and the universe is this big cesspool of life, and so it actually causes damage to other beings and worlds that we are not responsible for and we don't live in, and that the aliens are responsible for and care about. And so for their sake, they would not let us do the nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs. But yeah, the government, the government's saying, we say it's constitutional. Snowden needs to go in jail forever. Now, one reason why they might say that Snowden needs to spend the rest of his life in jail is because when he got the job, he signed a contract saying, okay, I'll do this secretively. And then he broke his contract. If you break the contract for something that serious, you need to go to jail. I understand that. But he signed something, when he signed up, he didn't know what he was signing up for. He thought he was just doing some, computer programming for something. And then he finds out what's actually going on, and that we're doing something that the government's denying doing. And he finds himself in the middle of he finds himself as a key worker in this world, and he just didn't want to play a part of it. He didn't want to. It would have made him feel guilty, and it would have made him feel like part of the problem. And that's the worst thing to push on somebody. I mean, if you have any self-respect, you need. We're all individuals, and we all make our own individual choices, and we all have the right to do that, and the God-given right to do it. And and he got to the point where he was like, what, this was unfair against me, that the government would tell me that I'm going to do something, and then I get the job, and then it turns out that I'm doing something completely way more like invasive than that. He's like, okay. I mean, I guess he could have quit his job and then just stopped doing it. But he thought it was his responsibility to let the American public at least know what they're doing. I mean, United States of America was founded as a democracy. It was, a bunch of free-thinking people came over to America from England and wanted to get rid of, live in a more perfect union that wasn't it wasn't an oligarchy controlled by a small group of people just having their inside meetings, making decisions for everybody else, and having all of this wealth discrepancy. They wanted to cooperate with each other and have more, the best democracy since Athens, and this is in America, you're not, this is not America that the constitutional people that our founding fathers made the Constitution with, or how America got started in the first place. This is something totally different. This is a small group of people, especially with the whole, legalized bribery and everything. This is just a small group of business people who are getting really rich off of this whole system, making decisions for everybody else and then lying to everybody else of what they're doing. No, that's not the idea. The idea is that when our technology companies do all this kind of stuff to try to find out what the terrorists are doing to save us from getting nuclearly attacked, that the public agrees with it. The public knows about it. That's America. The public has to know what they're doing. And then the sad thing is that the public would have agreed anyways. I mean, half of the people in America think that what Edward Snowden did was wrong. So half the people in America think that, yeah, the government's great to do this, and they should have been doing it against our knowledge. And like I said before, well, if they'd have been doing it with our knowledge, it would have been even more than half. People would be like, okay, yeah, cool. I understand what you're saying, Barack Obama. You're not going to read my email unless you have a, and that's not even, and that's, so yeah, they definitely went the wrong way. So they need to pardon Edward Snowden. They need, and from now on, they need to, everything that they're doing, we need to know the details of all of their activities, and if we don't approve of it, if the majority of Americans in the polls say don't do it, then our politicians need to get in there. It's dangerous. It can cause problems in the future when the politicians think that they get to make decisions for everybody else, because then we get in the future and then they could use all that specialized information that they have, that they use, that we don't even know that they're using the technology. It's kind of like Lance Armstrong doing the EPO and all those other drugs, and everybody else knows he's doing it and he's the only one. It's like, it's not a level playing field. You got to have a level playing field, man. You got to, if you're going to spy on us on the, smear, if you're going to do some kind of smear campaign on somebody, make somebody look like a lunatic because you have all this information about them, but you're not going to tell them how you got it, or then it's not fair. And so, but on another side of the token, I don't think it's really all that dangerous for the government to have your phone calls and your emails. Like for me, especially if Americans see, this is one way that Americans at large can combat this, is if Americans at large just open themselves up and become a lot more free and less secretive themselves, because then, if somebody does some crazy propaganda smear campaign against you, like cuts and pastes, like this happens all the time with celebrities. You can make a celebrity out to be crazy, like this whole, what's going on with the girl Amanda Bynes, who's all like, people say she's crazy and stuff. Well, if she wasn't crazy, she could just upload a YouTube video and say, look, this is how it happened, this is what happened, and this is why I'm not crazy, and yada yada yada, and explain herself. You don't, people, it's weird how celebrities never defend themselves. Celebrity like Tom Cruise gets, everybody makes fun of him for jumping up on the couch or something on Oprah. And why doesn't he just upload a YouTube video saying, look, man, this is why you shouldn't think I'm crazy for jumping on the couch, and da 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 da. Why don't you just defend yourself? And then, but anyway, it's like me. I don't think anybody could do a smear campaign against me. If I ran for president, and you had all this, and even if you had recordings of me on the phone and stuff, I mean, look, I'm exactly the same on YouTube as I am on the phone with anybody, or on an email or whatever. So it'd basically be just showing more YouTube videos of me or something like that. You couldn't change anything. And if somebody makes a YouTube video about me with all the craziest things that I've ever said out of context, I could just upload a YouTube video and go, well, those were all out of context. You got to watch them in context, and bada bing, there you go. Smart people would be like, oh yeah, of course, that's just propaganda. That's how propaganda works, and propaganda is not fair, and propaganda is stupid, and and so Americans wouldn't even take anything seriously if somebody wanted to, bust somebody based on the information that they have about them. I mean, for me, I would feel like, personally, for me, I'd feel like the more information that you had about me, the more you would respect me. The more, if you listen to, if somebody were to listen to phone calls that I have with people, they'd think I'm cool, because I'm cool in the phone calls. I'm nice. I'm a polite person, and in the emails too. And so it's go at it, go for it, dude. I don't care. I mean, of course I don't. But then what about identity theft? On my emails, I share account numbers and this kind of stuff all the time on the email, because I share all this kind of stuff with my mom, because she helps me out with lots of different things. And what if an Edward Snowden type of person? So if you have a lot of people with one of these programs who have that kind of access, and a lot of those people, what if one of them gets disgruntled, or they hired the wrong guy, some bad person, then they could go in and they could start some identity theft racket, by going in and just getting people's account numbers, and then people getting their identities stolen, and nobody would know how it happened because he would give the information to his friends, and he wouldn't be doing it, and then maybe they'd finally bust him, but and so the more like that's why I think it's, because I haven't talked to like if I think the Fourth Constitution is good. I think the Fourth Constitution is good. The Fourth Amendment, because I think we should have our privacy protected. Like my personal idea about this whole government collecting all of our private information. If the government did it in a responsible way, where they were really transparent in the way that they did it, then yeah, I'd be like, yeah, sure. But they don't do it in a transparent way. So I'm like, just get rid of the whole program, man, because you don't know how to do it right. You do it too clandestinely, and you're too authoritative in it, and you just want to use it for your own nefarious purposes. You think that we're going to get money out of politics, and so this is your next line of defense by smearing people and spying on the people you don't like, within your own country. It's not even about terrorists anymore. And yeah, so just don't let them do it at all, man. I think we're not ready for it. We need people to be able to have their emails secure, because people share. In fact, I should probably not email, account numbers and stuff, or even say it on the phone. I should say it in person, because they might be, because that's the main issue with me, identity theft. My cousin was visiting last week, and her identity got stolen a couple of weeks ago or whatever, and she didn't know how, and it could have been from the NSA. So, I'm not really all that worried about the nuclear getting nuked, a country getting nuked. And if we did, and if one of our cities got nuked, got completely leveled in America, the way that I think we should respond to that should be to, oh my God, that's a good question. The way I think we should respond to that should be to not attack any country, and just up the security on the actual, take all of our troops back from all the other bases around the world and say, you know what, all of you other countries, you're on your own. I know you have problems. I'm sorry you have problems, but we don't have the money to help you anymore. We're going to use that. We're going to bring all of our troops back, and we're going to invest all of our money on protecting the borders around our country, like it's some kind of force field around the country where we really do look into the actual things that people bring, it is kind of a complicated subject, but complicated subjects need to be, the way that you figure out complicated subjects is through communication. And that's not what the government was doing. The government was being totally secretive and not wanting to communicate at all, and trying to make their own decisions. They're doing it wrong, so it's like, then we should just get rid of the whole program, man. That's what I say. And the first thing we need to do is let Edward Snowden go free on the grounds that they were doing it secretively, and they were breaking the law. They were breaking the Fourth Amendment. We could make like a 28th Amendment, an amendment to the Fourth Amendment that says, in the case of digital media, we hereby allow the spy bots to collect email and phone calls of the people to store at a certain place that is secured, that nobody can, access without a warrant from the Supreme Court or something, But as of now, it's anti-constitutional, and and it's dangerous, this dragnet thing, because there's still so many people in America who are making blanket statements about Muslims. Like people on Fox. Who was it? Pat Robertson. A couple of days ago was like, I didn't see the video, but I saw the title of it. He was like, yeah, Muslims are just, people all over the place, these conservatives. The Muslim religion in general is just it's a religion founded on terrorism, and they're all terrorists, and so all Muslims are terrorists. And it's like, whoa, hold on, dude. Muslim people, I've met a lot of really, of really religious Muslim people who pray at 5 o'clock in the morning and stuff, who are also really peaceful and nice and friendly and open. They're actually the most open, welcoming people. Out of all the religions, it's the Muslims who are the most welcoming and take you into their house and feed you and you know, and like wash your clothes and stuff. Those people, I mean, you go to Iran, I've heard stories about Iran where they're totally like that. And more than anybody. And so it's just not fair, you know. We're not out of the woods yet. We could still do another, you know, concentration camp like we did for the Japanese just 40 years ago. It's not like it was, or 50 years ago. It's not like it was that long ago, you know. So, yeah, dude, we need that transparency. And if you don't have transparency, then you don't deserve trust, you know. And then so let's take away that program. And it's too expensive, anyways, man. There's better ways than spying on people to like this to deter that nuclear, you know. Just make those people like you. Just make them like you. You know, like people don't understand that terrorists, they're not like evil people. They're just really, really ignorant people. They're people from, I saw this Vice show the other day where all the child bombers, the child suicide bombers, those child suicide bombers were told that they wouldn't blow up. That the explosion would blow up outwards and kill everybody around them, and that they wouldn't die. Or they would tell other ones that when they die, of course, you know, they get to go to their planet with the 70 virgins and stuff. And you know, these people, they don't have, they haven't read the Quran. They don't know anything about the Quran. They're illiterate. I mean, I saw the interview with the kid, and so it's like when you have a bunch of these like ignorant people, you can manipulate them and get them to be your pawn, to, you know, be the terrorists. But that's exactly what the U.S. government's trying to do with American citizens, is keep them in the dark and keep them ignorant, and so then you can make them a pawn. That's probably, you know, I mean, I was kind of appalled when most of the people raised their hands in the Piers Morgan show saying that what Edward Snowden did was wrong. I mean, it's like, well, don't you realize that all he was doing was telling the American public that what the government was doing was wrong? So how could telling everybody, exposing something wrong that the government is doing could be a wrong thing? How? Because you're a dumbass, because you're not educated and you've been in the dark. You know? Stupid people they'll believe anything. And so you got to keep, you know, information is what makes people smart. And so if we keep the communication flowing, like Obama, I welcome the debate. Yeah, after Snowden forces you to, would you have welcomed it before, hypocrite? So yeah, you gotta be as transparent as possible, man. And then you can, and look, if there's another nuclear bomb like in Denver gets blown away, don't you think all of the American citizens would be like, okay, yeah, do that NSA program, spy on us, we don't care, get those terrorists, because we know you're not going to get us. Because, and I guess, you know, identity theft could get a little bit more, you know, serious of a thing, but you can fight against identity theft by just keeping your private, you know, account numbers and stuff on pieces of paper instead, you know, and so it's not that big of a deal, you know. That's the only thing I see dangerous about people reading your emails. Other than that, it's just superstition, you know. People like, oh, I'm so afraid that they might know that I look at porn. They'll think I'm weird. Oh, give me a break, dude. Look, I've exposed my penis on YouTube in 3 different videos. YouTube just deletes the video. What else did I do? I've done a lot of crazy things on YouTube. I look at porn, you know. I work all day long, I work really hard, and then when my brain overheats, I go on the internet and I type like naked girls. I like big boobs, little boobs, buns, really fit naked girls, tall girls. You know, it's and then I go back to my work for a little bit, you know, and then sometimes I do the videos and, oh my God, I'm getting a boner. And then it gives me a boner because I like the boner, you know. So, and it's like, oh my God, there's your private. Well, it's like, if you don't do that, you're not even a human being. If you don't do that, you need to like exercise some, or like eat an avocado, you know, or something, you know, improve your diet, because it's human nature to have sexual energy in your body, you fucking retard. So anyways, yeah, so like, yeah, it's a whole lot of different subjects with this whole thing. But But yeah, dude, we'll be fine because as time goes on, the future's bright because the trend's going to get better. Because as time goes on, people are going to get more and more, open about themselves, less and less freaked out about privacy. I mean, remember when we first, Native Americans, they wouldn't want you to take their picture because they think that their soul would get stolen, from the picture. And now they don't mind getting their picture taken, And I mean, as we move forward in time, we get a lot less superstitious. So in the future, people will not get freaked out about admitting that they look at porn every once in a while, or admitting that they are like walking around naked, or this, that, and the next thing, And they'll be able to be the same exact person on YouTube as they are with their best friends in the living room. And that's the idea, to just be all like expand, make the world bigger, expand the living room to the size of a world, so we're all one big happy family, and that's the trend we're going. But if we're going to allow that to happen, we have to we can't have this oppressive society where people aren't where large groups of people are controlled by a small group of people in ways that they don't even know how they're controlled, and then next thing you know, you can make people are ignorant, and when people are ignorant, you can make them believe in whatever you want them to, and then they'll start hating each other and then being secretive, and it's just the answer to freedom is communication, and the way to get communication is through transparency, and so government fucked up big time by doing this under the knowledge, against the knowledge of American citizens, and they can atone for their sins by just giving Edward Snowden a Medal of Honor. They should have given Socrates free meals for life. They need to give Edward Snowden a fucking gold medal for what he did. Okay, peace out.